Hello and welcome to another video from S15 Studio. I would appreciate if you can like and subscribe and leave any video recommendations down in the comments section. Be sure to check out my website s15studio.com where I have courses on Revit and AutoCAD. In this video series we're going to be looking at creating a one-story house plan, and this is aimed at a complete beginner or a past user who just wants to refresh their skills. To download the resources for this video, if you want to head over to my website s15studio.com, go to the file share heading, and in there you can download all of the resources for free. To get started, I'm going to use the architectural template, and in this template we're using the UK metric library. So just a quick overview. In the middle here we have our drawing area, and on the top we have the ribbons with all of our various tools that we'll use to create our project. On the left-hand side is the properties of the objects that we create, and below that is the project browser where we can browse all of our different views, sheets, and schedules. So as we progress, I'm going to touch on all of these different aspects of the software. I'm going to cover all of the different tools by putting them to use, instead of me just telling you what each one of them does. So to get started, the first thing I'm going to do is adjust my levels. What I'm going to do is go to my elevations in my project browser, expand that out, and I'm going to look at a south elevation, which will be this elevation bubble here, pointing up south. There we have our levels, our level 0, level 1. We'll always have a default value of 0 and 4000. And for our single story house, we're going to have 3 levels. We're going to have our ground level and our ground floor, as well as our roof level. First thing I'm going to do is select level 0 and select it again, and that will allow us to change the name. And I'm going to type in 01 ground level. The reason I wrote in 01 is because when we change our floor plans, they are organized alphabetically. So if we add in numbers, we're able to keep them organized numerically. Next one, we'll go to level 1, we'll select it, type in 02, ground floor. And when we change the name, you want to accept the dialog box, which is asking when you change the level, do you want the corresponding floor plan to also change, which is what we do want that to happen. Next, we'll change the actual height itself. It's set to 4 meters. We want that to be 300 millimeters. We can extend that out, and the ground floor and ground levels are attached to each other, so when you expand one, the other will also expand. Next, I want to add in the final level, which is our roof level. So in the architecture tab, coming down to the datum panel, select my level, and I'm going to attach to the first point of the current levels. Click once, extend out to the far right, and when I get that dashed blue line and I click again, I know that they are now locked in and attached to each other as well. This one we're going to change the level height to 3000 and also change this to roof. So we can see our levels are overlapping here. What we can do is we can select the ground level. If we zoom in, there's a symbol called an elbow. When we select that, it adds a little elbow to our level, so we can extend these out, pulling it down, making our text more legible. So any change that we make in one view, if I come to the north view, you'll see that those levels will take effect as well. And we can adjust our elbows. Same in the east view, we can extend our levels out, add an elbow to the ground level, and lastly for the west. I'm then going to close down all of the views apart from the south view. So now we've set our levels. We can see in our project browser under our floor plans, we have ground level, ground floor, roof, and we have a site plan as well. So now I'm going to draw on the external walls, and we do that by going back to the architecture tab. Our first tool there is the wall tool. So I'll select the wall, and then I'll come into my properties section here where we can change our wall type. I can go to the type selector, and we have various different default wall types. As I'm using the UK library, these are the wall types that are available to me. If you're using a different library, you can choose a wall type which is similar. And the wall type I'm going to be choosing will be the wall external 102 brick, 50 air cavity, 45 insulation, 100 block, 12 plasterboard. So once we've selected our wall type, we come over to the contextual tab, and here's our draw panel, how we're able to draw our walls. We also have an options bar where we can apply various settings. So first thing is our height. We have depth and height. If we were to choose depth, the wall would start on our ground level and go downwards. If we choose height, the wall will be attached to our ground level and go upwards. So we want to choose height, and I want to attach my walls to the roof level. So I'll choose roof. My location line is where, when I'm placing my wall type, do I want my location line to be centered on the wall? We can go in the external face of the wall, the internal face. So to give you an example, if I choose the external wall, the external face for my location line, and when I draw it in there, my dashed blue line is showing my location line is on the external face of that wall. If I change it to the interior, it's now on the inner face of our wall. And to draw the external walls, we're just going to be simply using a line tool. So if you want to refer to the downloaded resources from my website, you'll be able to follow along as well. So what I'm going to do is draw starting from the left-hand corner, I'm going to draw in the first wall. So I'll click to start, move my cursor in the direction I want to go. You'll see in the what are called temporary dimensions, it's showing me 7,400 mil. I want 6,000, so I'll type in 6,000. Next, I'm coming in to the right by 1210. Then going straight up by 14,660. Then coming across by 6650. Down by 4580. Over to the right by 3040. Then come down by 3800. Over to the left by 650. Down by 3245, back over by 650, and then come down by 10150, then over to the left by 3630, up by 1115, and we connect back to the start position. So my elevation marker or bubble is in the way, so I'm just going to click it and drag it away from the project. And when I do, I'll just select the beginning of the elevation, and we can see we have two lines. We have a solid line and a dashed line. The solid line is the start of our view. The dashed line is where the view ends. And we'll do the same for the rear. So that is the north elevation view. So we move it, select the front, make sure that the solid line is at the beginning of the house, and the dashed line is at the end of the house. Just check the east and west and everything's good. So now we've drawn the external walls. Now we're going to move in and now we're going to create the interior walls. And the wall type I'm going to choose is the internal 12 plasterboard, 100 block 12 plasterboard. We're going to draw by line, by height, connect to the roof level and the location line. Again, I'm going to go for the finish face interior. So I'm going to come over to the bottom side here. Attached to the corner of the wall, we're going to come up by 1270, over to the left by 220, and then up by 5715. Next, I'm going to just draw in the opposite side of our hallway, and I'm going to then come back to it by selecting it, come to the temporary dimension, and I'm going to change the width by changing the temporary dimension to 1250. Just ensure that we select this wall, as if we select the opposite wall and change this dimension, it's going to change this wall and not the wall we want to change. So Control Z to bring that back. So just make sure you must select the wall that you want to change and then adjust the temporary dimension. Then coming over to the left hand side, attaching to the corner of that wall. If it's not on the right side, we just use our space bar to flip it to the other side of the location line, and then we can attach it to the hallway wall there. And coming into the bottom right hand corner, again choosing my wall tool, and for this as well I'm going to just draw in my wall, select it, come back down to my temporary dimension to adjust the position, and my temporary dimension is attaching to this corner here, and I wanted to attach to this corner in the bottom right. So I grab the blue grip, drag and drop it into that corner, and now I'm able to change this temporary dimension from this corner here. And the length of that is 3920, enter. For the next wall, I'm going to select the wall we've drawn before, come to my copy tool and just copy it up. Once placed, we'll then select it again, come to the temporary dimension and change that to 3280. And for the remaining walls, what I'm going to do is draw them in roughly where I see them on my plan. And then again, I'll come back and adjust their position. So selecting this wall, change the temporary dimension here to 1200. This inner wall here is 420. And this wall here from the lower wall is 2300. We'll then work our way up to the middle of the building, and coming down to the bottom here, what I'm going to do is just extend this wall up and come into my wall tool. And again, I'm just going to draw in the walls as I see them on the plan, come back to them. And I see here, this is 1100 from this wall here. And this wall is 1650. So again, I'm going to place in my wall as I see it on the plan. So there's no right or wrong way of how to create your plans. You can either place the wall accurately using the temporary dimensions at the beginning, or you can just place in your walls and then come back, use the temporary dimensions to get in the correct position. So this wall here is 3 meters from the lower line. And this wall is 1500. And this one is 600, the lower wall. So continuing on, I'm going to choose my wall tool again and just place in a wall for my hallway. Come back to my temporary dimension, change that to 3125. And then I can select this wall here using the blue grip. I can drag it back. And as well, I can, to align this wall with this one here, I will drag it back. When I get the dashed blue line, I can let go, and that is aligned with this wall here. I can then extend this wall out, and again, pulling this one down. And for the second wall for our hallway, we'll draw in the wall here. And the width between them is 1000. And for this cupboard is 760. So we'll select the wall, type in 760. This upper wall here is 1918. For this opening here, it's 1 meter out, running up to the edge there. So between there is 1 meter. We have another wall in between here, and between them is 1600. Coming over to the left, drawing the wall here, and it's 3000 from this adjoining wall here. And we can copy this up. And the distance between those two walls is 1800. And to tidy off this corner, I can select one wall, use the trim and extend to trim those walls there. Then come back to my wall tool. Coming over to this corner here, we can close this off and then attach this one here, pull it all the way over like so. And again, drawing in these other walls. So over on the left, the top wall there is 1800. The width is 1900. And for this wall here, first we'll just drag this down, attach it back. So our wall comes across here. We have this one extends out and comes down. This wall here is 265. The upper wall comes to 170. And all of this now is correct. We need to close off and separate this to create two new rooms. So we'll draw in our wall, come back to it, select our temporary dimension, dragging it over. It's 3125. And then finally for the internal walls, we'll create this alcove here. So dragging that over, first we have 200. Then between the two walls is 1500. And the upper to the lower is 600. And same on this side. So now we have our external walls drawn and our internal walls. What we can do is we can go to our 3D view so we can see how it looks. And in the quick access panel at the top, the 3D house is our 3D view. Now we can see we're starting to build up our single story house. We have our external walls and our internal walls drawn. So next we're going to create our floor slabs. And we're currently on our ground level and are in the bottom left hand corner in this open room here. This will be our garage, and our garage will be at ground level. So we're going to place in our floor slab first in our ground level, then we're going to move up to our ground floor to place in the ground floor slab there. So in the architecture tab in the build panel, we have our floor. So we'll select that. Here's our type selector. And again, this is the UK metric library, so these are the floor types that are available to us. If you're using a different library, simply choose something similar. So I'm going to choose the ground floor slab. And in the contextual tab here in the draw panel, we have the various different ways we can draw it. So if we draw by line, the floor slab will just attach to the inner face of our external walls. But what we want is the floor slab to integrate itself to the walls themselves as it will be when it's built. So what we do is we choose the pick wall tool, and this will combine the core boundary of our floor to the core boundary of our wall. I'll show you a section view of how that works in a few moments. So I'm going to choose pick walls. I'm going to choose the interface of my external wall and the internal walls as well. When we're drawing a boundary, it will create these pink lines. And one thing that you have to keep in mind is there can never be a break in the pink lines, and you can only have one continuous object. So how we can tidy up this break is we can choose the trim and extend. Trim and extend. I'm just clicking each of the lines. To double check that there's no break left within this boundary, what you can do is hover over one, press the tab key, and we see that the shape is continuous. If I break the boundary and do the same, if I hover over, press the tab key, we can see that there are two grips showing where the break is. So it's a nice little tip to show where there is a break. So again, I'll choose my trim and extend, and this will be the boundary of my floor slab. What I want my floor slab to do is extend past this blockwork, so the blockwork will sit on the slab. Same for the external wall. So what I do is I select it, hit the flipping arrow and flip the boundary to the external side of that blockwork. And once we're done, I press the green tick to finish, save the project when prompted. And what we'll do is we'll create a folder called House Project and then save it into your library. And the name of the project will be House Project. So there's our slab has been created. If I go back to the 3D view, there's our ground floor slab in what will be our garage. So now we need to do the remaining of the house. So we'll go over to our ground floor. So we're on our ground floor level, not our ground level. So coming back over to the south elevation just to show there's our ground level and our ground floor. So we'll do the same process. We'll go to floor, choose our ground floor bearing, choose our pick walls, and we'll select our external wall. Just one click of the mouse. And now we'll just double check the boundary by hovering over one, click the tab key and click. So there we can see continuous blue line. And then here we have an issue. So we need to tidy this up. So we'll go trim and extend. And there's our ground floor slab, but it's on the wrong side of that blockwork. So I just want to use my flip tool to flip it over. And this side is fine, and trim and extend this corner as well. And again, I'll hover over, tab, click, and just double check there's no more breaks. And everything looks great. So now green tick to finish. And we get this prompt: the floor roof overlaps the highlighted walls. Would you like to join and cut the overlapping volume out of the wall? Yes, I would. And what that is, what I'll do is I'll come to the quick access bar at the top. I'm going to choose my section view, click once on the left, click again on the right. That creates a section view that we can cut through our building. Double tap the beak, and there's a section through our building. We can't see any of the internal working, so what we need to do is come down to the view controls, go to the detail level, select fine, and now we can see our external wall. There's our internal blockwork has been cut to accept our floor slab. So our blockwork now sits on top of our floor slab. So this is the core boundary for our floor. That is the structural part of our floor is now attached to the structural part of the external wall. We can also see all of our internal walls are sitting on the ground level, which is incorrect. So what we need to do is go to our 3D view. We can select one of the walls, then right click, select all instances in entire project. That has selected all of the internal walls. We then come to our properties section. We'll go to our base constraint. So they're all sitting on the ground level. We need to change that over to ground floor. Then we come back to our section 1, and now our internal walls are now sitting on top of our floor slab. In the garage section, we do need to drop that wall back down to the ground level. So we'll select it, base constraint, ground level, same on the opposite side as well. And we'll close down our ground level view just so it's out of the way, and our section view as well. We'll grab our ground floor and bring it to the front. I can select the section view now and just delete that out. Next, we're going to add in our internal doors, and we'll come back to our architecture tab. There's our door tool, so we'll select that. In our type selector, we have a couple of different door types, and we're going to use what is there for now, and I'll show you how to bring other door types in from the library as well. So I want to choose the 810 by 2110. Again, if you don't have that in your library, you can select a similar door of a similar size. Go to 810. So I'm going to come over to the top left-hand corner. I'm going to place a door here. So before I click, when I hover over the wall, and a door can only be placed on a host. So you can only place it on a wall. You can't just randomly place a door into the project. So you must place it onto a wall. When I hover over, we get a preview of where the door will sit. If I move my cursor, I can flip it to the top or bottom. We can also use the spacebar to flip the direction or the swing of the door. As well, we have our temporary dimensions on the top. So Revit will help us and automatically center that door for us. But what I want is 100 mil on the door swing side. So when I see that, one click of the mouse and we'll place in our door. We can also, again, choose our door. We can just place it in if we wish, then escape. And we can then come back and adjust the position once placed. So we'll select the door. We can use the flipping arrow to flip to the opposite side. We can also change the swing as well. We'll select the door and I want 100 mil on the door side. So we can either go back to our door tool, or we can select a door that's already placed and we can go to create similar, and we can use that to essentially just create the same door type. For this door, we'll place it and it'll be about 700 mil from the adjoining wall. And again, I'll select this door, create similar, flip it to the opposite side, place it, just make sure that I've got 100 mil from the wall. Choose my door, flip it over, place, flip it in, adjust the swing, and we'll give it 100 mil. Select the door, create similar, place it in, flip over the swing, and we'll push that out to 100. Here we have a cupboard with a double door. So what we need to do, if we go to our door tool, we only have internal single doors included. Above that, we have an external double door, which we don't want to use. So we're going to bring in a internal double door. So in my door tool, I'll go to load family. In my library, I'll open up the doors folder, choose internal doors, and there's a few different types of doors available to us supplied by Autodesk. And I just want to choose the plain internal double door. We'll press open. And in the type selector, we have a few different types we can choose from. I want to choose the 1510. And when I hover over the wall, you'll see that it's kind of jumping. What that means is it's centering the door for me. So you can look at the temporary dimensions and we've got an equal dimension either side. So I'm going to click to place. Then moving down, we have the next cupboard here, which again is just an 810. So I'll select that upper door, create similar, place it in, and it's got 100 mil on that side. Perfect. Coming over to the toilet, look for the temporary dimension. Coming down as well, press spacebar. And we have the garage door as well. So just going back over, checking the dimensions, that's 100 mil. Here as well. And there. And then lastly, for the internal doors, we have another double door. So we'll go to door, load family. But this one is an internal assembly. So it's got a small side door. So we'll choose that, press open. And we have various different swings. So we have a double swing, meaning that it will swing both sides. But we just want a single swing. I'm going to choose the 1210 by 2110. So I'm going to center that and then flip it to the inside. Next up, we're going to add in our external doors, and we'll then move on to our windows. So we're going to add in our front door down here in the front, and we'll go to our door tool. And in our type selector, we don't have any front door types in our library, so we must go to Load Family. There I'll open up my Doors folder, External Doors, and the door type that I want to add in will be an external single, and I'm going to go for number 8. Again, if you don't have this in your library, simply choose something which you feel will work for this project. We'll then press Open. The door type is now loaded into our type selector, and I want to choose a 1010 by 2110. We'll then place in our door, and we can see there that the door has been centered for us, which is great. Next, we'll add in another door in the front. We'll go to our door, Load Family, and this time we're going to add in a external double, and it's the external double with glazing bars number 3. Press Open, and we're going to leave it at the 1510 by 2110. I'll then place it into the project, and the door will be 200 mil from the adjacent wall. Next, we'll move up to the garage door, and for this one we're going to add in the same external single, but we're going to change it over to an 810. Get it nice and centered, flip the swing, and place. Then come up to the middle right of the project, go back to our door. Again, we'll go for the external double with glazing bar 3, and we're going to go for the 1810. We'll center it, flip it to the outside, and place. And we'll choose the same for our rear porch. So we'll place that in with about 700 mil from the adjacent wall. We can adjust that later on if we wish. Now we'll come down to the bottom of the project, and we're going to start to add in our windows. When we add in our windows, it's the same process as the door. We go to our window. In our type selector, we only have one type available to us, so we'll go to Load Family. We'll go back through the folders to the main folder, open up our window, and we'll come all the way down to Window Single, All Bars. And we'll bring that into the project. If I open up my type selector, we have various different sizes, and what I want to do is to create our own bespoke size. So I'm going to go to Edit Type, and there's the type properties for this window, which is a 910 by 910. What we want to do is we want to duplicate that and then change our width and height. So we'll come over to the right, select Duplicate. We're going to change it to a 410 by 2110. Add in millimeters, press OK. Scroll down to the dimensions heading. There's our height, which is 2110, and our width, which will be 410. Press OK, and then place it into the project. When placing the window, if we look at the temporary dimensions, if the temporary dimensions are on the external side of our building, it means it's being placed correctly. If the temporary dimensions are on the inside, it means the window is flipped and it's incorrect. So we'll look for the temporary dimensions on the external face. And I want it to be about 200 mil from the adjacent wall. And we'll select that 410 by 2110. We'll create similar, and we'll place it in again in the next room at about 800 mil from the adjacent wall. And what will be our kitchen, we're going to place the next window. We'll go to Window. We're going to stick with the single all bars, but again, we're going to duplicate that to give it a different height and width. So we'll go to Duplicate. This will be a 2110 by 1010 millimeters. Press OK. So our height is 1010 and our width is 2110. We'll then place it into the external wall, and with this particular window our sill height will be set at 1100, and to double check that we just select the window, come to our properties, there's our sill height. So we'll make sure that our sill height is set to 1100. And what the sill height will adjust, if I come to my 3D view, there's my window, there's my sill height set to 1100. If I change that to 500, we see that we lower the window's height. So I'll bring that back to 1100 and I'll come back to my ground floor plan. So in the next room, we're going to place the same window type, but we're going to duplicate this again to create our own size. So we'll duplicate. It's a 2110 by 610 millimeters. Press OK. So our height is 610 and our width is 2110, which is correct. So we'll press OK. We'll place it in, and I want my window to be about 850 from the adjacent wall. So if we can't find it with the temporary dimensions, we'll just place it, select it, and then change the temporary dimension. Next, we'll place the next window here. Go back to Window, and we will edit type, duplicate again, and this one will have 2110 by 2110. Press OK. So our height, we just need to change. Press OK. So we'll place it here. And we have our sill height set to 0. Next, we're going to place in the same as here. We have a 2110 by 610. So we'll select it, create similar, place it centered into the wall, and we'll just double check the sill height is 1500, which is correct. For this wall here, we'll choose the same window type from here. So we'll select create similar, find the center point, place, and just double check the sill height is set to 0. Next, we'll come down to the left-hand side of the building, and we'll choose our window. We will edit type, duplicate, and for this side we have 1410 by 1210. Press OK. So our height is 1210. Our width is 1410. Press OK, and we'll place it into both rooms. So we'll look for the center point, place, look for the center point, and place. And the sill height for this is 900, which is correct, and 900, which is correct. Next, for the next room, we'll again come to our window type, and we're looking for an 1810 by 2110. So we don't have that. We'll go to edit type, duplicate, 1810 by 2110. We'll then change our width to 1810 and our height to 2110. Press OK, and we'll place it in. And looking for about 600 mil from the adjacent wall. Our sill height is set to 0, which is correct. And we'll do the same for the next room down. So we'll select our window, create similar, place it in, centered into the room, and click. Next, we'll come down to the very bottom of the project, and we're going to add in our garage door. And we'll go to our door tool for that. We'll go to Load Family, come back to our Doors folder, External Door. Right down the bottom, we have our Doors Garage Horizontal Panel. So we'll select that, press Open. And I want to change the dimensions of this, so we'll go to Edit Type, Duplicate, and it's 4810 by 2410 millimeters. Press OK. We have our height, which is 2410, and our width, which is 4810. Press OK. Place it in, look for the center point, and click. So now if I come to my 3D view, we can see starting to build up our project. We have our internal doors, external doors, and our windows placed. So with the garage door, we placed it when we were on our ground floor plan, but we want it to be on our ground level. So we'll select our garage door, go to level, change it back to ground level. So now when I open up my south elevation, all the heights are correct. Our garage door sits on the ground level, so we can continue. Next, we need to add in some column supports for our roof. And for that, we'll just go to our wall tool, go to our type selector, In there we have a wall external 215 brick, so we'll select that. And our base constraint we're going to change to ground level. It's set to height going up to our roof level, and I want to change my location line to finish face exterior. And I'm just going to draw it in, and we can come back afterwards to adjust the dimensions. So when I draw them in, you can see the brickwork is cutting right through our brick cavity and insulation to attach to the blockwork. So the core boundary of this brick is looking for the core boundary of that wall. So in reality, we don't want this to happen. So what we'll do is we'll select the brick, and at the end there's a small blue circle. What we'll do is we'll right click that. We're going to disallow join. So we're going to disallow the join between the core boundaries. So they're no longer joined, and now I can drag it back and attach it to the face of the brickwork. We'll do the same for the opposite side, like so. If we wanted to rejoin them, we'll select it, and there's the join symbol, and if you click that, it will rejoin those boundaries together. So now we just need to reposition our walls to match our building plans. So first I'll select the wall on the right, and the distance we're looking for is from this position here to here, which is 1205. So we'll just drag my temporary dimension over, and we're set at 1210, so we'll just change that to 1205. Press enter, and the distance from the external face of our wall here to this brickwork here is 1 meter, which is correct. Then finally, the total distance between the two walls is 515. So we'll select the left-hand brickwork, just adjust our temporary dimension and change that to 515. So that's set and correct. We'll now come up to the back or the rear of the building. So to create the rear column, what we can do is we can use our model lines to help us place that column. We could draw in the column and then readjust it using the temporary dimensions. That's one way of doing it. We can also use our model line as well, which will help us to find that point. So if I select my model line, attach to the edge of the building, draw straight up, and the other side as well. And the edge of the column is down by 1080, so I'll use my move tool, attach to the line, move down by 1080. So there's the corner point now for my column. What I can do is I can go to my wall tool, and I can go straight down by 515, across to the left by 515, attaching back to the model line and the start point. So now we have the position of our column for our roof. So when we're drawing our roof, we can either draw it on a ground floor level and then adjust the base constraint and change it to the roof level, or we can open up our roof floor plan and we can draw our roof on this plan. But at the moment, we don't actually see the ground floor external walls because they're below our level line. So what we need to do is adjust our range base. So we'll go to our properties palette, we'll scroll down to underlay, there's our range base level, and it's set to none. So if I check the arrow, go to ground floor, now we can see our external walls below. We can't actually do anything with them because they're below our level. So it's perfect for drawing our roof. To create the roof boundary, we'll go to our roof tool, which is in the architecture tab build panel. And when we do that, we open up the create roof footprint. So you'll notice that when we're drawing a boundary, we have a different color green. We have a mode section with a green tick, red X. So when we have this, when we're presented with this, when we finish, we have to either green tick to complete the process or red X just to cancel everything and start again. So you can't move forward without doing one of those two actions. And what we're going to do is we're going to choose our pick walls tool, and this will attach to the core boundary of our walls, just like we did with our floors. And you can still use the line tool if you wish, but it will not attach to the boundary. So we'll choose our pick walls, and in the options bar, we have a define slope and an overhang. So if we have a zero overhang, the roof will fit right to the edge of the building. And this is something we don't want. We want to include an overhang, and we want to include an overhang of 200 mil. And right now we want to leave define slope turned on. So now all we do is we go around the building and we just click on the external wall, and I'm going to ignore this alcove here as we're going to continue the roof boundary all the way down. So I then come down to the next section here and continue around. And just like any boundary that we create, we can hover over one line, hit the tab key and click, and we can see where there are any gaps. So there we can see an obvious gap. We go to our trim and extend like so. So we've just placed our quick boundary. We're going to come back and adjust it in a few moments. But my advice is that you should always just create the boundary, green tick to finish. And if there are no issues, the roof will be placed. But there can be some issues in creating the boundary. And if you spend a lot of time working up your roof by changing the slope and so on, and then you go to hit the green tick, the roof will not build itself. So you've just wasted some time. So my advice is to always just place the boundary, green tick to finish, and then we can go back into the editor. So we know the roof has been placed and we can continue. So to give you a quick idea of what the roof will look like. So we can see that all the hips, valleys, verges, and everything are automatically created for us. We don't have to do any work. So now I'm going to go back to my roof plan. And to go into the editor, I'll select it, go to Edit Footprint, or I can double tap the roof. And what we're going to do is go up to the very back of the building or the top. We're going to adjust the slope of this side of the roof first. So when you select the line for this side of the building, we're presented with the flipping arrow as well as the overhang dimension as well. So if we hit the flipping arrow, it goes inside the building and it's 200 mil offset for the overhang in the inside. And if we use our flipping arrow again, it'll go back out to the outside. So this is where we would change the slope of that roof. And what I want to do on this side of the roof is actually have no slope. So we'll go up to the options bar and we will turn off defines slope, green tick to finish. When we go into the 3D view, we can now see that there is no slope on this wall here. So we get a nice gable finish. And while we're in the 3D view, just to show that you can do edits within any view, we can select our roof. We can go into the properties section here. And in there, we're able to change all various different properties of this roof. And what I want you to do is change the slope over to 15 degrees. You can press enter, but those changes won't take effect until you move your cursor into the drawing. And what we'll also do is change our roof type over to roof pitch to the 38 tile 25 batt. Again, if you don't have that, just select something similar for this video. So we'll go back to our roof plan, and what I want to do is extend the roof footprint to sit over our column. So I'll double tap to go in. So what I want to do is I want to extend the roof here to sit over our column. And since we placed the roof using the pick wall tool, we will run into an issue. The reason being is this roof is attached to this core boundary here. So when we extend our roof just past the column, this section of the roof is still attached to the core boundary of the wall. So when we extend that out, we won't actually be able to create the roof. So if I press green tick, it says we cannot create the roof. Reason being, again, is because it is physically attached to the core boundary here. So what we need to do is, I'll Control Z to bring it back. We can delete that line and we can just draw it back in using just a plain simple line. I can select the line, change to 15 degrees. So now this line isn't attached to the core boundary. So what we can do is we can move it by starting our move point from the face of the building to the face of the column. And now when I green tick, I'll save the project. Come into the 3D view and we have extended our roof. So if I come to east elevation, there's our roof that we've just extended. And why we came into an issue was there's that external wall that this roof was attached to. So if I change to wireframe, and I'll just pull my east elevation back so we can clearly see it. So there's our external wall that we were attached to with this roof type. So all of the buildup of this roof was attached to the core boundary of this wall. So when we tried to extend it out, we weren't able to push it back because it was attached to this roof. So we detached it by deleting that line as it was drawn by pick walls, and we just drew it back with a simple line. Come back to my roof plan. I'll come back to hidden lines, and we'll open up our edit footprint again. We'll come back down to the front, and I want to do the same for the front here. So what I want to do is delete this line, redraw it back in as a simple line, and I want to also turn off define slope so we get a nice gable edge. I want to then move it to the external side of that column, and we'll also do the same for this left hand side. We'll delete that line, go back to our line tool, and the slope of this is 15 degrees. So what I want to do is I want to move this boundary line to be in line with my garage door, and we can't see the garage door right now. So what I will do is I'll go to my ground floor plan, and when I open up the ground floor plan, we're still in the roof editor. Now that I'm in my ground floor plan, I'm able to see the edge of the garage door. So using my move tool, I'll move the line in line with the garage door and green tick to finish. So we'll go to our 3D view and we can see our roof coming along nicely. What we can see are some issues like here. So because this boundary line is just a simple line and not connected to the core boundary, we're getting some issue here and in the rear as well. So what we can do is come back to our roof, double tap in, and we can redraw the whole thing just using the line tool and an offset just to make things easier. So we're going to select our line. We're going to add in an offset of 200. And we can use our pick line tool, which will allow us to just pick a line instead of drawing. So we'll choose pick line and just clicking on the outside of the building. Like so. So now that we've done that, we just need to tidy it up. So you can hover over a line, hit the tab and click, and we can see where there are issues. So there we have a break. And here, again, hit tab and click. So there's no more breaks. So now that we've done that, what we can do is hit tab, click, and we can change the slope to 15 degrees in the properties palette. Here we know we want to turn off define slope. Same in the front. As well, we have an offset of 200. Let's increase that to 500. And we'll come down to the bottom here and we'll select the move tool, attach to the edge of the external wall, then to the column, and same in the bottom. And we'll do the same process for the lining up with the garage door. We can then green tick to finish, come to our 3D view, and now we have no complications with the corner of the roof. So what you will notice is a big gap between the external wall and the roof. So the next thing we need to do is to attach the walls to the roof. To do that, we will hover over one wall, hit the tab key, and you can see all the walls are now selected. And when we click, all walls are now selected. Once they're selected, it brings up the Modify Walls contextual tab. There we have attached top base or detached top base. So we can attach it, and once we've attached it, we can also detach it. So we'll click on attach. We then need to specify what we want to attach to, which is the roof. So we'll click on the roof, press escape, and now our external walls have attached themselves to the roof. We'll do the same for the columns. Hover over, tab, click, attach, roof. Around to the rear. Hover over, tab, click, attach, roof. So we'll come back to our ground floor. We're now going to work on the exterior groundworks for the building, so our terrace and driveway and rear grass. So we'll come down to the front of the building first. I'm going to create a little porch here in the front. So we'll go to our architecture tab, go to our floor tool. In the type selector, what I'm going to do is select the timber joisted floor. And we're just going to place that in. We're going to go to our line tool, go into the edge of the building where our garage door is, coming right down to in line with the column and attaching to the face of the building. Green tick to finish. There in our 3D view, we can see our porch. As this video series progresses, I'm going to show you how we can change and alter the materials of this building to make it more realistic. But right now, we're just going to build the basics of the building, and we can further develop it as we go on. Next, I'm going to come back and go to my ground level, and we're going to create a step up onto our porch. To create a step, what I'm going to use will be the stair tool, and in the architecture tab, circulation panel, we have stairs. So we have various different default stair types available to us. What we're going to do is create our own. So we're going to go to create sketch. And when we create a sketch stairs, we have to do three things. We have to create the boundary, the riser, and the stair pad. So all three steps have to be done in order to create a bespoke stairs. So I'm going to go to my line tool to create the boundary attached to the edge of the building. I'm going to go in by 240 mil. Same over on the other side. We're then going to place in our riser. So this is the first step. We'll do the same for the top step. And now that that's done, we'll create our stair path. So what we're doing is we're just telling Revit the direction of the stair. So we'll go to stair path and we'll just draw in a line. So we're going from the bottom up to the top. Green tick to finish. And green tick to finish again. So we're getting a warning because of our levels are not set correctly right now. So what we need to do is select our stair, come over to our base level, we're at ground level, and our top level will be our ground floor. And if I go to my 3D view, there's our step, which is below our porch. So we just need to adjust the boundary of our porch to accept our new stair. So we'll come over to our ground floor. Select the porch, edit properties, and we're just going to drag it back to the top step. Green tick to finish, 3D view, and we don't need the railings. So the railings will automatically be included when we create a stairs, but we don't need them for this exercise. So there we have a step up to our porch. And what we're going to do is do the exact same to the rear. So we'll go back to our ground floor. So we'll go to our floor. There's our floor timber joist. Go by line. And I'm going to go to the edge of the column to the building. Like so, green tick to finish. And we're then going to do the same by creating our stair. So we'll go to stair, create sketch, add boundary by 240. Same on the opposite side, 240. Draw our riser. and our stair path. Green tick to finish, green tick to finish. Again, we'll just select our stair, change, make sure on ground level to ground floor. Then select our porch and just drag the boundary line back to the top of the stairs. And we'll create the second step here. Stair, create sketch, boundary, over by 240, 240. Go for our riser. Green tick to finish, green tick to finish. Just double check our levels. So we just need to select our porch to adjust the boundary. And if you can't find it, we'll come to select element by face. I'll be able to select the face of the porch, edit type, drag it back to the top step, green tick to finish. Go into my 3D view. And we'll delete out the railings as well. And we just need to adjust the base constraint for our column. So select the column, change that to ground level. So there we have our rear porch in place. Next, we're going to create a footpath around the building and add in our grass and driveway as well. So we'll go to our ground level. So we're going to place in a footpath on our driveway. And there's many different ways we can do the topography of the building, but for the beginning, for the basics, I'm going to show you how we can place these in using the floor tool. Later on in upcoming videos, I'll show you how we can do this using the topo surface method. So go to my floor, go to type selector, and the one I'm going to use will be the floor ground bearing, but we're going to change and adjust this as this particular floor type has insulation and materials that we don't want to include in our footpath. So we'll select that. We'll go to edit type, duplicate. For now, we'll leave it the name as is with the inclusion of the number 2. Press OK. So we're now going to adjust our floor type by going to the structure and edit. So there is our current floor, our ground bearing floor slab. And what we want to do is to adjust this for our footpath. So what we don't need is the vapor barrier. We don't need the insulation. We don't need any damp proofing. But our footpath will have hardcore, it will have sand, and it will have a concrete layer as well. So we can also remove the screed or top finish for this footpath. So press OK. And now what we can do is we can go into rename. We can delete out the number 2, and we can delete out what we have just removed. So our insulation and screed. And we don't need the floor ground bearing name. We can just call it footpath. Press enter. So press OK. And now I'm going to use my pick lines tool and go around the external face of our building. I'm going to go underneath the porch. And we'll come around the column. Like so. So when we're creating our boundary, this will not work because it needs to be one single continuous line. So what we need to do is break these lines up, and we can go into our modify panel. We have split element. If I split that line, we've now created 2 lines, and we can then use our trim and extend to trim around the column. I also want to extend this in to meet the internal slab of our building. So I can use my pick lines tool here. And as well, we'll split, trim and extend, and pick lines to meet the internal floor slab there. So again, I can hover over, tab, click, just to double check there's no breaks in our boundary. So now that we've placed the boundary around the external face of our wall, what we need to do is now add additional lines for our boundary, but offset out from the building. If we press green tick, it's going to make a floor slab on the inside of this boundary. We want to go on the outside. So we'll go to pick lines, offset by 2000, so 2 meters. And again, select the external face. I'm not going to select every line because I want to push the boundary out to this face here. And what I want to do as well will be to create a footpath and leave some opening for some planting. So what I'll do is I'll use my pick line attaching to the edge of the step, use my trim and extend, and we can draw down a further 5 meters. And same here. Then trim and extend. Tidy this up. And what I want is the footpath to run across here, giving a nice area for some planting. Trim and extend, trim and extend. So our continuous line runs down like this. We might pull this back by 1 meter, so we'd only have 1 meter around the front. And we can then pull this back by 2 meters. And we can attach these here like so. So there's our external boundary, and we have some tidying up to do there still. So these sections here we're going to infill in a few moments with some planting and to the rear as well. So once we're happy with that, green tick to finish, and I'll go into my 3D view so we can get a better idea. So there's our driveway, and we'll have some planting in the front, some grass here along the side, and we'll have some to the rear as well. So I'll go back to my ground level, and we'll do the same method. We'll go to floor, and for the planting, we'll choose the same footpath. We'll go to edit type, duplicate. We'll leave the name as is now, press OK. Structure, edit. So we want the site hardcore, we want the sand, but we want to change the structure. So we don't want concrete. What we want will be some grass or planting. So what I've done is I've opened up our material browser. This is where we'll choose our materials to build up our walls, floors, doors, and so on. I'll go into a lot more detail in an upcoming video, but for now I just want to simply create a material so we can progress with this stage. So there is an earth material here, but it's not that appealing. So what we'll do is we'll come down to this icon here, change our view to AEC materials. And in here, there are other materials. We have a hedge, we have some grass, but the image, what we also have would be a plant image. What I'm going to do is I'm going to choose this one for today, and to bring that into our material browser, we'll choose the arrow pointing up. That brings it into the project, and once it's in the project, we press OK, and I'll just reduce down the structure size to 50. Press OK. We'll then rename it and change that to 50 PLT, and change the name from footpath to plant. Press OK. We're now in the editor, go to boundary line. I'm going to choose my rectangle and just draw it in place. Choose my pick line. And again, with my pick line, I'm going to offset by 3 meters, maybe up to 5. I can choose pick line and pick line. Trim and extend. Green tick to finish into the 3D view. So to get a better idea of the material themselves, we'll go to our visual style, change over to realistic. So there we can see some grass on the front, our footpath, our driveway, and the grass to the rear. So we're going to upgrade all of these materials and how they appear in future videos, but for now we're happy with how it's beginning to take shape. Lastly, what I want to do is just to put a fence around our property. So we'll go back to our ground level plan. And before we continue, you can see the elevation markers are now in the view. So I'm just going to drag it back and again just select it to make sure that the beginning of the view is at the start of the building and the end is at the end of the building. So to draw a fence, what I'm going to use is a railing. So we'll go and choose our railing tool. And when we open the railing tool, we're again placing a boundary line. In the type selector, we have a couple of different railings we can choose from, but we want to create our own fence. So what I'll do first is we'll just place in this railing and then we're going to create our own fence. So I'll go to my line tool. I'm going to attach to the inner side of that wall, going to the boundary of our property. I'm then going to choose the pick lines tool. We're going to offset it in by 50. So I'm going to go on the inner face of the property. And then come back to our line tool with no offset. And again to the inner side. And then just trim and extend to tidy up. So we have no breaks, which is great. Green tick to finish. If I go into the 3D view, there we can see the beginning of our fence. So now we just need to adjust this railing to create our own fence. So we're going to select it, edit type, duplicate, and we'll call it 1800 mil fence. So we'll first come down to our top rail, and we're not going to use a top rail for this, so we'll turn that off. We'll then come back to construction, and here we have rail structure and baluster placement. So this is how we'll develop our railing and generate a fence. So under rail structure, we'll go to edit, and we're going to have a top, middle, and bottom. So go to insert and select it 3 times. I'm just going to name them top, middle, bottom. Our top height will be 1600, middle will be 900, bottom will be 200. What we need to do is apply a profile to these rails. So we'll go to profile, default, hit the drop down arrow. I'm going to come down to the profiles handrail rectangular 50 by 50 and do that for all 3. Press apply. So there we have our 3 railings, our bottom, middle, and top. We then now come to our baluster placement, creating the vertical timber slats. So we'll press edit. So if we come to our main pattern, we have some objects that we can choose from. So with the drop down arrow, we have a couple of different baluster families we can choose from, but I want to create my own, as obviously what we're doing is we're manipulating the railing tool and that's all designed for railings and not fences. So we need to create our own fence panel. So I'm going to press OK, press OK. There's a lot of errors because we're not finished yet. So we'll press OK, press OK. And first thing we'll do is we'll save the project. We'll then go to File, New, Family. And in the template folder, we have metric, baluster, panel, and post. I want to choose panel. Press OK. So now we're in the family editor. And I'm going to briefly touch on this for this video series. Later on, I'll go into a lot more detail about all of the family editors and how we can develop our own families. So we're now in the left elevation. And in here is where we're going to create our own baluster. First thing I'm going to do is change the baluster height. We'll change that to 1800. And once we've changed the elevation height, I'm going to go to the floor plan reference level. In there is the center point or the insertion point for this. And what I want to do is to create the plan of our fence panel. So go to create, and in our forms panel is where we'll create our form. I'll go to extrusion. I'm going to choose a rectangle. I'm just going to draw it in and we'll come back and then edit it. So it's 20 mil by 100. I'm then going to select it and just position it correctly. So now it's positioned correctly. I then green tick to finish. If I come to the left elevation, there we have it there. And I can see the orientation of our panel isn't correct. So go back to the reference level. I'll select our panel, use my rotate it around, come back, and now the orientation is correct. And what I need to do is I need to extend it up to our baluster height, and I need to lock in the position of that height. So I use my blue arrow to drag it up and let go on the reference plane. When I do, there's a locking symbol that will appear, so I lock it in place. And I must also do the same for the bottom. So now it's locked in place. When it's locked in place, it's attached to these reference planes. So when we change the baluster height in the model, those reference planes will adjust and our panel will adjust in height. So now we will save that and save it into your house project folder, and we'll call it fence 100 by 20 mil. And once it's saved into your folder, you then need to go to load into project, and we load it into our house project. So now what we've just created as a family, it's in our library, and it's now also loaded into our project. So when we come back to our railing, and we'll go to edit type, we go to baluster placement, choose edit. So there's our baluster family. We go to the arrow, drop down arrow. There's the fence 100 by 20, which we created. So what we need to do is just adjust the base and top of where that will sit. So we'll go to base, drop down arrow. We're going to go to bottom, but the bottom railing is 200 mil above the level. So we need to bring it back down to the ground level. So it's minus 200, and our top is only sitting at 1600 mil high. We want it to sit 200 above that, so it's 1800 high. And the distance from previous, our slats are 100 mil wide. We want a 10 mil gap either side, so we'll put it at 105 mil. We then come down to the bottom, which is for our posts. So the post will be at the start, end, and corner of our fence. So we'll leave that at 25 mil for now. We'll go to the base, which will be the bottom, and we'll also choose negative 200. Our top will be top plus 200, and we'll do the same for all three. So when we press apply, we get a preview then in our viewer. So here in the horizontal rails, I can see that they're cutting through our fence panel. So we need to just press OK, come back to the rail structure, press edit, and we need to add an offset to the rail so it sits on the outer side. So we'll go to offset, and if I add a positive figure, it goes to the left-hand side. If I add a negative figure, it goes to the right. So I want to add in a -20 to each of those horizontal posts in the rail, so it sits on the inner side of our fence, and we'll press OK, press OK. So in upcoming videos, what we'll do is we'll add in text dimensions. We're going to create a kitchen from scratch, a bathroom from scratch, add in all of the furniture for the bedrooms. We'll also put it onto a sheet, change materials. And in further videos, we're going to further explore Revit by going into collaboration, massing. And if there's anything else you'd like me to cover, please write it down in the comments section. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you for watching, guys. Goodbye.